All right. Hey, everybody. This is Kate Califano, owner of Seminar Stack. We're here at the Patriot Games down in Homestead, Florida, and we're here with our instructor for our Grip 'em and Rip 'em Weapon Retention Seminar, Mike Bland. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your credentials leading up to this amazing seminar that you're teaching.
How's it going? I'm Mike Bland. I'm a retired sergeant out of Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Have about 30 years in the combative space. I'm a fourth degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm super, stoked about being out here at Patriot Games and with Seminar Stack and being able to, help out and, teach a little stuff.
Awesome. So what we're going to do is something a little bit different. I have a stack of about 22 questions here. Mike is going to randomly pick 4 to 5, whatever he's comfortable with, and answer these questions right on the spot. So Mike, go ahead, pick your poison. And just read it out loud.
Biggest rookie mistake people make under pressure. I would say probably the biggest issue is people overestimating their level of competency and their level of skill. If they're not trained, they put themselves in positions that they really shouldn't be instead of trying to think smarter and think doing what they're comfortable and what they know. They force themselves into bad situations. Now, that can all be avoided with regular training. And unfortunately, that's something that we need more of. Enough officers aren't getting in there and getting what I consider adequate training and enough training to, where ultimately have that competency that you may think you have, but you really don't.
Right. Awesome. Keep going.
All right, we'll go off to the side. What skills fell first when adrenaline spikes? Any fine motor skill. Okay, any fine motor skill is going to fail first, and especially a fine motor skill you don't train. If you think of something basic, we're out here at a shooting range and we think of changing a magazine during a gunfight. It's not a very difficult task to change a magazine. It is a fine motor skill, and so most importantly, if I was to go out here and I put some stress through, somebody out here on the range and suddenly I had them do a mag change, they would be able. I'm pretty confident they would be successful in doing that mag change, nice and smooth, getting back up on target and ready to fight. It's a fine motor skill though, okay? And the reason they're able to continue doing this under stress is because they've trained it over and over and over and over again. If I take somebody who has very limited firearms training or maybe no firearms training, I teach them how to change a magazine. It's a pretty easy function, but then I inoculate them with stress. Mm-hmm. As soon as that starts to happen, I guarantee they will fail on that simple task because they haven't hit the reps. They haven't done it under stress previously. They don't have thousands of reps of doing that task. So while fine motor skills are what's going to fail first, with training, we can mitigate that.
So consistency in training, specifically under stressful situations, to have more of a real world situation.
Absolutely. And reps.
All right.
All right, we'll go to this side this time. Let's see. What is stress exposed fastest in training? So this kind of backs up the last question. What stress exposes is your lack of training, your lack of being ready, your lack of being prepared, your lack of putting reps in the gym at the range versus just having this expectation I'm going to show up and I'm kind of a in the game kind of guy. I don't put the work in beforehand, but I think everything's going to come together once all the pressure's on. That's nonsense.
And do one more.
All right, do one more. Let's see. Let's go. We'll go this side again. One environmental factor people ignore but shouldn't. People. Okay. People think about, being on wet surfaces. People think about curbs behind them as they're moving, but just people being in the way, people being in that environment, whether it's a situation of shooting, or we're thinking backdrop, or whether it's just a fight and I've got people I'm running into, I'm trying to move, but I'm running into other people. So I think, when we train, we like to have this area, this space. This is the space I'm going to operate in. Everybody watch your training partners. Everybody be careful of what's around you. But you're not going to necessarily have that luxury when you're out there, in a real world situation. There's going to be people in your way. And at times, you're either having to worry about bumping into them or putting them in a position that you don't want to based on your movement.
Oh, awesome. And we have one last question. It's our 20-second question that we will always have. I'll read this one. When things get heavy, what's one thing you do to stay grounded and keep moving forward?
This is kind of easy. I think about whatever it is that I'm doing, I think about ultimately the why. Like, what am I here for? Why am I here for? And for me, that's my family. Okay, that's my family, my friends, the people I love. Um, that's why I'm doing this stuff. That's why I spend my time in the gym training. That's why I get to the range and shoot. That's why I do the uncomfortable stuff on a regular basis. Uh, I'm retired now, but one thing that my wife knew is I've had plenty of friends, some of my best friends who didn't survive their career, killed in the line of duty. And these are savages. These are people that are trained, so this doesn't really hit on them. But one thing my wife knew when it came to me is that could happen to me. Okay, that's a reality. That's something I may not have control over. But what can have control of, if that happened to me, it wasn't going to be because I wasn't prepared. It wasn't because I didn't put enough time in the gym. Okay, I'm putting the time in the gym. I'm putting the work in training. If that happens, it was beyond the control I could do. But it wasn't going to be a situation where, had I trained a little bit more, that wouldn't have happened. Okay, so I always tell people, you're especially if you're a cop, you're a first responder, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your friends. You owe it to your family to be the best version of yourself out there working. And even if you're not a first responder, you owe it to your family to be prepared for situations that could happen to anybody. Okay, put yourself in the best position to be the best version of you. That's what I always go back to on the why. On days I don't want to train, because it's not about motivation. It's consistency. Consistency doesn't care about your motivation. There's days I don't want to go to the gym, okay, but I go. I'm consistent because I think about the why. Why am I here? Why do I do this stuff?
All right, thanks, Mike. That all but wraps it up for us with our 5 rapid fire questions. Mike's going to be here at Patriot Games teaching an amazing seminar. Catch it online if you have the opportunity, and we'll see you out there on the field.